Welcome, everybody. Hi, welcome to the FiveStack. Hi, Sue. Hi, Paige. Hi, Marianne, Lori. Dr. Tom's in the house. We got doctors here. My name is Dean. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate you spending some time with us for the next hour. Zev Shalev, my friend, former big-time CBS morning show producer, former big-time Mr. Big-Time TV, now turned investigative sleuth guru. And now my Substack Live partner here on Substack.
It's quite a trajectory I've got there, right? Keep going up is what I keep saying.
Yeah. Well, relax, because I'm just checking out my hair right now. Hang on.
It's fantastic, by the way.
It's not bad. I got a good do.
You've moved on from your, was it Ellen DeGeneres haircut to what is it now?
Yeah.
This is more like a Conan
age
O'Brien.
Appropriate. I think it's
Conan
age
O'Brien.
appropriate. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a little.
It's got like a lot of lift. It's almost like a Donald Trump's hair, you know?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. Anytime someone identifies my hair with Donald Trump's hair,
He's good
incredible.
hair. I mean, considering.
No, he doesn't. He's had scalp reductions.
Hair.
Oh, it's not even hair. It's someone else's hair.
Yeah,
they take hair from his back or just above his ass crack, and they take the skin and they like staple it into his bald spots. That's what they do. They do. Have you not looked into it? You're bald.
Wow, thank you. I'm not bald. I have a buzz cut. Which I
do you have a buzz cut?
This today I do because I actually accidentally shaved part of my hair and I took like a whole chunk of it out. So I had to take all of it off to match it. This is not interesting for people, I'm sure.
Of course it is. There's hundreds of people in here already and they're having a great time. Yeah, hi, Kat. Good to see you. Everybody's calling you Fuzzy, Zev. You're fuzzy. Yeah,
fuzzy.
There you go.
Thank you. I like being Fuzzy Zev.
Yeah, welcome to the Fuzzy Zev and Poofy Dean podcast. We're going to count down the 5 biggest stories of the day, and it all happened today, from the cover-up to the nuclear cancellation of Congress to secret meetings with Ghislaine Maxwell, to China selling off bonds, to it's an Epstein / China Substack today. Everybody, I'm sure, will veer in and out. But the most important thing is that we try to bring you the truth and help you read the tea leaves and get underneath some of the stories so you're not focusing on issues that don't matter and you stay focused on what does and not distracted from the Epstein files, transnational crime, and, of course, your fascist, pig, rapist, felon, President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Where do you want to start, my friend?
Well, let's begin with that big story. Congress was just poised to vote on releasing the full Epstein files with bipartisan support, including AOC, Thomas Massie, and even Marjorie Taylor Greene demanding transparency. Instead of having the vote, Speaker Mike Johnson shut down all floor activity and sent Congress on a summer vacation, openly admitting they needed to give the administration space to handle Trump's Epstein problem. That's the same evangelical who shares a porn monitoring app with his teenage son, by the way. So I know you pointed out.
Mike Johnson. Yeah. He and his adopted son, who he adopted at the age of 13. It's weird.
Yeah.
Share a porn app.
Different
no, same.
But, it's the maximum transparency when it comes to porn, but a minimum transparency when it comes to Donald Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. That's what's going on. This is, let's just say it out loud. We are witnessing a cover-up in real time. I mean, they're not even trying to hide the fact that they're covering things up in real time. And this is step one. Step one was making sure there's no vote on the House floor. So to give Donald Trump space means to give Donald Trump space to cover up the actual facts in the case. And he's going to be doing that through a bunch of things. We'll get to those in the next stories. But let's just spend a minute here talking about Mike Johnson and his turnaround. Just last week, he was saying maximum transparency.
Maximum transparency. I was like watching these videos of MAGA Mike Johnson, that little ferret, that little evangelical cult ferret, go on and on about, well, I think we do need to see the Epstein files. Like, if you wanted some guy to talk you to sleep, that's the guy. I do need someone to release the Epstein files, and it would be nice to have transparency. And then yesterday, he was asked, and this is all a ruse, right?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this evangelical Christian that, in his 10 Commandments, thou shalt not lie, lies his fucking tiny little evangelical cult dick off every single day for this man. And today and yesterday was no different. They never had any intention of taking a vote on the Epstein files. I talked to somebody in the know. You can call them a White House insider or insider adjacent, who said it has just been all hands on deck trying to prevent any conversations on the record in Congress, in the House, any debate, any vote, any appearance by Ghislaine Maxwell, who we'll get to in just a second, and all of his MAGA foot soldiers, MAGA Mike Johnson being one of them, that freaky little creep, were worked all week this week to prevent any type of bipartisan support for any type of vote to release the Epstein files, to get information on the Epstein files, and to look into the cover-up. We're no longer looking just for the Epstein files. The cover-up is a much bigger story. And because the Trump regime is covering this up at a nuclear pace, MAGA Mike Johnson stepped out this morning and, yes, we're not going to take any votes. In fact, we're going to take a break. Congress is going to take a minute. We're going to come back in September because the administration needs, get this, as you pointed out, some space. Do you know what they need space to do? Because I do.
I do as well. I think it's a cover up. I mean, we'll go through it in great detail because there's 5 or 6 steps that are happening here, and it's obvious once you look at them that this is a giant cover up. But do you want to answer your own question there, or should I just keep going to?
Well, no. We can get to number 4 if number 4 leans into number 5, because there are several different versions of what this cover-up entails. And not just versions, but pillars of a cover-up. One is, of course, deflection. 2, the other thing is you got to have everybody, your foot soldiers, your most important people on side telling the same lie. That is full on. It is no different than we've ever seen from the regime. You've got to get to all your foot soldiers that are out of line. And to get to those foot soldiers that are out of line, you have to isolate them. You have to get them out of Congress. You got to get them away from cameras. You have to end every sitted session. You got to get them the fuck out so you can go and work them over, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert, who, when you got AOC and Boebert and Jasmine Crockett and Marjorie Taylor Greene agreeing on the same vote, you've got to vote. You're in fucking trouble. So what MAGA Mike Johnson did today was give Donald Trump, by ending Congress, stealing with taxpayer money, stealing your time, stealing what you pay for, stealing the idea that you're not going to get these Epstein files, so he could give Donald Trump all kinds of time to go and threaten every single fucking GOP member who wants answers for victims and doesn't want, the elite pedophiles that have been running this pedophile ring, who today are smiling because Donald Trump basically shut down government because he doesn't want to answer questions, doesn't want these files to come out.
Let me also say the Democrats shut down the House because they have been introducing these votes in the subcommittee saying, we want transparency on Epstein. And they've done it so effectively that they've actually cornered Mike Johnson. And that is the reason this is shutting down. So kudos to the Democrats for actually picking up the story because it matters and running with it and putting enough pressure using whatever available tools they had in the House to force their hand. And this is their hand. They're now having to basically admit that if they had a vote in the House, they would lose. And the House representatives would vote to see the Epstein files, and those Epstein files obviously have a lot of data and information about the president that he does not want out, which is why they're going on vacation. So this is a victory for Democrats. It really is. And it's a real, shameful time for Mike Johnson, who knows better, who's not doing his job as we pretty much expect he wouldn't. But, he's acting as the enabler in chief of the president rather than the people's representative in the House.
That's why he's there. That's why every single one of these cretinous pieces of shit are in the positions that they're in, with the exception of Dan Bongino, who is day to day, I'm hearing, in terms of coming out and blowing the whole thing up. That's why Kash Patel's there. That's why fucking Pam Bondi's there, Scam Bondi. She is nothing more than a mercenary. None of these people are mercenaries. None of them are fucking qualified for any of the positions that they're in. They've got a 22-year-old former landscaper heading up the Department of Terrorism. They've got Pete Hegseth, the drunk news anchor. They've got Tulsi Gabbardski running around, who's legitimately a paid Russian agent, running around going, we need to arrest Obama for treason. Like, it is MAGA is going a million different ways, but it's going a million different ways with a million different unqualified losers, which Donald Trump has surrounded himself by. And that's sort of going to be the thing that bites him in the ass in the end, that, you didn't bring your best people. You didn't hire the best. You didn't run with the best. You just put sycophants in situations to do exactly what they're doing right now, and they're doing it. But they're so stupid and so weak and so compromised and so fractured, because it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and all the religious people. It's, elites that have a lot of money riding on the stock market. It's guys like Howard Lutnick, whose sons are actually shorting the tariff market right now with a company that does that takes bets and projections on tariffs. And I'm not shitting you. Yeah, everybody around him, he's got in on the scheme, and they're all compromised. And so if he gets to enough of those people over the next 2 months while Congress is out, guaranteed you're never going to see the Epstein files. And I don't doubt that he's going to threaten the shit out of, or bribe people, or at the very least tell them what he has on them to prevent them from actually voting to see the Epstein files and protect victims of horrific crimes, specifically children, over the past 20 years.
Which brings us to number 4. So Trump's newly appointed Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, the same lawyer who defended him in the Stormy Daniels trial, has announced that the Justice Department will meet privately with Ghislaine Maxwell in federal prison. Not subpoena her, not charge her, but meet with her privately behind closed doors. Now, Blanche is a bit of a heavy, in terms of lawyers. He's going to be leaning in. Now he's the AG, so Deputy AG, so he's got a different kind of power than he had before. But you can bet that he's going to be leaning in on Ghislaine Maxwell to say, this is what you can say and this is what you can't say. And if you don't say, what you want to say, we are going to play with you and we'll give you a pardon. But if you do say what you want to say, all hell's going to break loose and you'll be in here for a very long time. My bet.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
There is something rotten in the state of Denmark, as they say. When Trump's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, who lost in New York, who was derided as a terrible personal fucking lawyer while Trump was getting his teeth kicked in and charged with felonies. If you remember, he was the guy on the bench, along with Helena Haba, who before this was I believe she was, if I'm not mistaken, a lawyer for tow truck companies and parking lot owners. When
Really?
Yeah. When your personal lawyer, you elevate him to become the assistant or deputy attorney general underneath another person who you elevated, who was also an ambulance chaser in the state of Florida, who buried the Epstein files several years ago based on a $25,000 donation from Donald Trump so she could run and win the attorney general's position in Florida. Pam Bondi, I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Todd Blanche and Pam are both his personal lawyers. Mm-hmm. Now, let's revert back to the break that we have from Congress. Mega Mike Johnson said, we're going to take a break. Don't worry about it. We're going to look into it. And Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, the president's personal lawyers that he put in charge of the Department of Justice, and I shit you not, they need some time, about 2 months, to go and visit Ghislaine Maxwell in jail, to get her to do one of two things. Tell a story about Donald Trump that is entirely untrue, and I'll tell you how that story goes real quick. Ghislaine, what you need to do is you need to disavow Donald Trump's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. You need to disavow his involvement with young women. You need to separate him from the pedophile ring he's protecting, including himself. And you need to make a very, very bold statement about it. And I believe they've already gotten to her, if you ask me. And the other thing they're going to do, well, one of three things: kill her, or let her know, because this is what happened to Lev. Lev got a note from Rudy Giuliani, just hang in there, you're going to be fine. And he turned state's evidence and they fucked him. And they'll do the same thing to Ghislaine. It's so
interesting you bring up Lev, because Lev is another example of this heavyweight thing happening. They did it with Michael Flynn, too, if you remember that early on in the first administration.
Did it with Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
Did it with everybody.
So they go in there and they are heavy on pressure. And they do mob-like tactics. So, you can bet you bottom dollar that is exactly what plans he's going to be doing. He's going to be, firstly, reneging on whatever deal has been made before.
He does not want to know what's in the Epstein files. He does not want Ghislaine Maxwell talking about it. There will be no questions about, can you tell me who, if Donald, the last question he's going to ask Ghislaine Maxwell if he goes in and has it's a secret meeting. They arranged a secret meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. Jeffrey Epstein's madam, who was charged with trafficking thousands of girls to hundreds of elite, wealthy, influential politician, businessmen, and associates of Jeffrey Epstein around the world, to get her to shut the fuck up, or at least tell a story that absolves Donald Trump of any crimes in return for something. Pardon, in return for, we're going to cook the Epstein files. We'll put out a different set of Epstein files. Because that's the other thing these 2 months give Donald Trump and his regime of fucking morons, liars, and pedophile enablers. What it also does for Donald Trump and all of those people, it gives them 2 months to create some type of false flag, false document, false assertion that it's the Democrats and the deep state and Oprah and fucking Tom Hanks and Bill Clinton. I don't doubt Bill Clinton's in there. He's been awfully quiet. So is Hillary, by the way, real quiet. That's all this is. And to top it off, the shit nugget on top of the Epstein-Trump Sunday, apart from canceling government for the next 2 months, coming back
because
in
they're
September.
So scared of the truth. I mean, they're scared of the truth coming out. This is why they're canceling government. It's not for any other reason. Ghislaine Maxwell has all the receipts. Obviously, if she wanted to, she could testify tomorrow and reveal everything about this, current administration, the current president's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, their involvement with all sorts of foreign intelligence services, from the Israelis to the Russians.
Russia,
their
Israel,
involvement in laundering a lot of money into
China,
the United States to damage the economy. Their involvement in crashing the economy several times over and crashing the stock market. And their involvement in illegally creating wealth by crashing all these major corporations. I mean, this is, she could talk about all of that. Plus, she could talk about who was compromised, who wasn't compromised, the whole strategy behind it, who's the people who gave the orders, and who on the GOP was benefiting all the way through during this entire process, because they were in there getting their profits. They were in there getting their pounds of flesh as well. So you've got, all sorts of activities and all sorts of forces around the world that converge to create this. And I'll talk about my story a little later, but, the whole thing here is really what we're looking at is the exposure of the deep state. This is really Ronald Reagan's network that was created for the Iran-Contra affair, which sort of got spun out of control, which had too much money on its hands, never repaid that money. And now we're seeing what happens when that thing snowballs to the point where it's reached now, which is now basically threatening the entire United States. But we'll get to my story a little later on, because I want to finish this cover-up. What we've got here is the Congress saying, no, we're going to take a holiday, and we won't listen to this vote, and we won't do this vote. You've now got...
By the way, the day, at least 11 members of Trump's regime, the GOP, MAGA members, at least 11 of them, we're going to get ready to cross the floor and decide with Democrats to say, release the fucking files. That was supposed to be today.
Right. And so you've got that happening. Then you've got Pam Bondi allowing her deputy AG to go ahead and have this meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. And then in the White House, this is the third thing that's happening in this particular cover-up, is you've got Donald Trump saying, I think it's appropriate for them to meet, but it's a witch hunt. And what's far more important, and he deflects right away, he moves into Obama's to blame for what happened to me in 2016. So now you've got the deflection piece of it going on. And that deflection piece is a telltale sign that this is what the narrative that they're building. He didn't mention Epstein's name once during today's press conference. He very carefully avoided saying it. He said it was appropriate, gave a quick thing saying it's a witch hunt, and then diverted into Obama is guilty of treason, for defending this democracy against his installation as an autocratic president. I mean, that's where we're at.
It was great because I was watching the press conference today. And it's funny. I feel like I'm impervious to Trumpisms now. I'm like, oh, yeah, Trump's meeting with the guy from the Philippines today. He's going to go off like an idiot. And you noticed some things I noticed, obviously. Not a word about Epstein. Didn't say his name once. Veered directly into triggers for MAGA and the cult. Veered directly into treason, which, by the way, Obama's team apparently seriously considering a lawsuit against Donald Trump and the Trump regime, which would be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All of these things to be said, the most incredible part of that presser with Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was when they asked him about the Epstein files and whether or not, this meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell was going to go off. And I'll paraphrase how he responded to it. They asked him the question. He's like, "Who?"
Yeah.
and they're like, "Ghislaine Maxwell." Immediately, I don't know anything about that. I mean, the deeper and closer we get to the truth, the worse his memory's getting. On top of the obvious signs of a cover-up, shutting down government, threatening his GOP members, sending his fucking personal lawyers to have secret meetings with Ghislaine Maxwell. And let me just put this out there, too, and I need everybody to pay attention. Lev has impressed this upon me many times. Pay attention. Don't get distracted, okay? Mm-hmm. Don't get distracted from what's at stake here. What's behind Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't matter. In the big scheme of things,
well,
she can tell any. Well, she does, but she doesn't. She can tell any story. She can lie. She can cheat. She can fucking. She will do anything to get out of her 20-year sentence.
Exactly.
And say anything to get out of her 20-year sentence. The truth, the damaging stuff, is in the Epstein files and the people associated with the cover-up of not releasing the Epstein files, saying the Epstein files don't exist, and then getting legitimately bank statements, wire statements of the $1.5 billion that touched Epstein, JP Morgan Chase, Trump, and Russia. That's what Donald Trump is protecting. He's not protecting, he's protecting his pedophile buddies, he's protecting himself, but the pressure he must be getting from all of his pedophile friends right now that are also in the file going, "Oh my God, whatever you do. And you can just, I can hear these phone calls with Trump and every one of his secret pedophile asshole buddies where they're like, "Shut down the government. Shut it down.
You know that
Get to Ghislaine."
They will let him go. I mean, his friends will happily turn on him. I mean, they don't care if Donald Trump doesn't make it through this presidency. They will happily say, he was the one responsible, we did nothing, and he can't be the president of the United States. So that is also possibly going to happen. And you see that in what the Wall Street Journal is doing. The Wall Street Journal, typically on the side of Donald Trump, is publishing all these stories that are opposed to Donald Trump. And there's a little nugget that I came across earlier on, which said that J.D. Vance, just before the publication of that big story with the birthday card, J.D. Vance went to meet Rupert Murdoch and his son, and they had a secret meeting in Montana, I think, because that's where it took place.
Yeah, he took Air Force 2 to Montana. You're not really very espionage-like, but yes.
Yes, but I mean, here's the guy who will benefit the most from the ending of the Trump presidency, J.D. Vance, talking to the publisher of the Wall Street Journal just ahead of their publishing a very damaging story on Donald Trump and his relationship with Epstein. Well, I mean, I'm not sure what that conversation was about, but I'm pretty sure what it was about.
There are so many receipts. Well, I know what it was about. I think you know what it was about. I think all of us know it's about a coup within a coup.
Yeah.
It is about, from the sources that I have, and folks, you're hearing this here first, is that there's a faction that supported Donald Trump prior to this next election that he fucked over. That faction includes Elon Musk and his EV rebates. That's millions, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars he just stole from Elon Musk. And that faction includes a bunch of other elite, wealthy business people who are watching their 401ks and their investments and the dollar and all their wealth attached to the dollar literally swirl the fucking drain because he's so useless. He's so performative. He is so corrupt. And those people got, from what I understand, they got to Rupert Murdoch. And Rupert Murdoch is one of those guys that, and give him credit or no credit, depending on how you look at it.
But I'll tell you,
I know.
I'll happily give you.
But if you remember when the Smartmatic thing and promoting the big lie, and when he was in deposition, Rupert Murdoch, and this is a great nugget, and you got to weigh this stuff against everything that Rupert Murdoch does. The truth isn't always black and white, he said. Sometimes it's green. Money. So let's pivot now to that meeting with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance surreptitiously goes to Montana, meets with Murdoch and Murdoch's son, who runs Fox News. They come back the next day. The Wall Street Journal publishes this post. J.D. Vance has been eerily silent about all of this stuff. And there are rumors that are more than rumors at this point that there's a coup within a coup brewing. And that J.D. Vance is part of it with Wall Street Journal and a certain group of elite business people and influential people in the United States.
Like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and, of course, the Russians.
They want to hang him out to dry.
Yeah, which is not so surprise to anybody. We knew that the second J.D. Vance was named as his running mate. But there's some extra details here that are worthwhile, which underline really what you're saying here. So the VP, J.D. Vance, on Tuesday made a brief trip to Montana where he spoke to media mogul Rupert Murdoch, his son Lachlan Murdoch, the head of Fox News and News Corp, and a group of other Fox News executives. According to two people familiar with this trip, Vance met with a group at the Murdoch family ranch in southwest Montana near Dillon. According to the people, they confirmed the visit to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about it. So this is an organized narrative that they're building, that they're going to take down the president of the United States. And for those of us who are opposed to the president of the United States, we're all saying, wow, this is great. Finally, here comes Donald Trump's comeuppance. He deserves it. He's a shit. He's got everything. He should be going down. On the other hand, he's been the target of a coup by people that we also really don't like. Because let's face it, the Russian piece of this, the Elon Musk piece of this is all Russian. And they are busy organizing an attempt to overthrow the president of the United States while in office, which under any circumstances, no matter what you think of any president of the United States, should not be allowed to be defended against by the American people. It puts us all in a really interesting bind because, what do we do once we're left with a President Vance? He's not going anywhere for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's got the ability to sound like he's not a maggot.
Mm-hmm.
He has the ability to sound like he knows what he's talking about when he doesn't. Keep in mind, this is a guy that wrote a book about humping his couch and is now the vice president of the United States. He is wholly beholden to Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. They took him out of circulation for about 6 months, brought him back. He was all of a sudden, Trump was no longer Hitler. He didn't give a shit about women's or kids' rights, and he was 100% aligned with MAGA. Well, that's a Trojan horse. And we saw it in Canadian politics. For all of our American friends, sometimes the devil is a lot better than the devil behind the devil and because Trump is a symptom. Well, what's after Trump? After Trump is a symptom that's 40 years younger, that's Harvard educated, and he's a Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel dude, and he believes in much more caustically terrible things for the United States of America than Donald Trump. And it's funny because Donald Trump's health has played a role in this, according to people that I've talked to, is not just his inability to string a sentence together in his declining mental and emotional state, and the damage he's doing to 401ks and investment portfolios and newspapers and people like Rupert Murdoch and all of his old friends. But they're concerned about his physical health as well, and the embarrassment of that representation of America, that he is consistently, they want someone who is not an embarrassment. J.D. Vance can pass himself off as not an embarrassment to the layman, to the idiot, but J.D. Vance is also significantly worse and more baked into the movement that is legitimately, according to my sources, trying to remove Donald Trump and trying to end run him with these Epstein files. It comes from somewhere. Like Rupert Murdoch made Donald Trump. He helped make Donald Trump. He partnered with Donald Trump. Now he and Donald Trump are at war.
Yep.
They're at war. They're at war over letters. They're at war over content. They're at war over assertions that Donald Trump indeed not only was Jeffrey Epstein's friend, was deeply involved with him. They say they've got dozens, maybe hundreds of receipts from the Epstein files that they're getting ready to unload. And you got 2 months to do it, right? So again, nothing good, but at the same time, maybe I've thought about this today. Maybe JD has a change of heart. Maybe he gets in the office and he's like, okay, listen.
No, JD
I only did that because I needed
evil
to.
Guy alive. I mean, that's really the reality.
Maybe.
I mean, he will be the head of the most despotic, data-driven, autocratic state in the world. I mean, he has no feeling whatsoever. let me add to that, though, and I'm diverging here, but anyhow, let me add to it. So Rupert Murdoch, back in the 1980s, when he needed a little help with getting a couple of newspapers in markets, or buy some TV stations in some markets, he reached out to his friend Roy Cohen to set up a meeting with Ronald Reagan, and they had a great time. Ronald Reagan and Rupert Murdoch, they hit it off. They had a deal struck between the two of them that actually entailed that Murdoch funded something called the Democracy Fund, or Democracy Initiative, that Reagan had, which was actually a front. And in that Democracy Initiative was funding for Iran-Contra, was funding for all these arms that they were going to be sending to the Iranians via Israel. And most people looking back at that now agree that Rupert Murdoch was a party to Iran-Contra, and that Roy Cohen was the matchmaker that put Ronald Reagan and Rupert Murdoch together. And of course, Roy Cohen was very close to Donald Trump.
Oh, he taught Donald Trump. Donald Trump was his protege.
Yeah. And in my story today, which is, I guess, the next story on the countdown today, although we'll figure out what number it really is it reports all about Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in Iran-Contra and his relationship with Adnan Khashoggi, the main arms trader in Iran-Contra, and how he worked for Adnan Khashoggi throughout the 80s in a deal called the Al-Yamana deal, which he did for Douglas Leese, a supposed MI6 spy. And so what you're seeing in that story is two things developing. That there was an initiative by Ronald Reagan to create this shadow network that was going to exist over this period of time when they could do, they weren't allowed to do any covert operations of the CIA. That was made illegal after Watergate. So they were trying to do it through private enterprise. They were going to, contract out all this stuff, and they were going to create this Iran deal that would allow them to send weapons to Iran. And Douglas Leese was the MI6 guy involved. Ari Ben Menashe, who we've spoken about before, was the Israeli guy involved. But it was Robert Maxwell, Rupert Murdoch's supposed enemy number one, who was responsible for running this operation. And it was under his auspices that Jeffrey Epstein was introduced to Israeli intelligence, and how we then get to this, to the Iran-Contra affair winding down after it was disclosed in 1987. And what they did then is, instead of giving the money back to the CIA and, squaring all the things that they had, this $600 million in funds that should have been returned to the CIA, they began laundering this money through things like Towers Financial, which was Steve Hoffenberg's company. And that money became money that Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting. So this is Robert Maxwell's initial money that he got for Iran-Contra, was kept into Jeffrey Epstein, laundered through Towers Financial, and then ultimately kept in Epstein's world. And this thing snowballed. You now had the creation of a deep state. You had all these organized criminals. You had these intelligence assets. You had people who were crossing the line of legality and illegality. And it developed an entire network, of which Donald Trump is a part of which Rupert Murdoch is a part of which Robert Maxwell was a part of, and Jeffrey Epstein was a part of. So you've got this network of really wealthy, powerful people who have had a lot of money that has been grown out of that $600 million. And that is what we're looking at really exposing here. Now, it's not going to get exposed because, it's just not going to get exposed. These are very powerful people. And the chances of Ghislaine Maxwell going out there and saying the truth is very limited. So,
yeah. And she has a chance to be a bit of a turncoat hero, kind of.
She could be.
And then that's the thing. Like, if what you say to be true in your latest reporting, which you can go to narrative.org, get a subscription, go and read Zev's reporting on this. He's been working on it for 8 years. He's finally piecing this together. He's a great risk to himself. None of the things that you've said in there are wrong or have ever been disproved. And wouldn't that be amazing, though? I mean, just thinking positively for a second, not that we're going to get it. I believe the cover-up will work at this point. But wouldn't that be amazing if Ghislaine Maxwell stood up to the stump or sat in front of 60 Minutes or in front of Congress? She's like, this all goes back to 1983, and implicates everybody and said, this is what we did. We worked with Russia. We worked with other governments. Jeffrey Epstein created this honeypot scam. Here are the people involved, and I'm done. I'm out. I regret everything I ever did, and I'm truly sorry to the victims. because she's never said that either. She won't. She'll take the low ride out, specifically if Donald Trump and Todd Blanche go to jail, and they're like, you have one of three options. Pick one, and one of those options is you dying, so pick one of two. You only really have two, but we'll see what happens.
She might have done that already because she needs an insurance plan here. I mean, she's not going into this meeting with Todd Blanche without an insurance plan. And that insurance plan surely must be that she has the truth somewhere ready to go if anything.
I was thinking about that. Someone broke into Jeffrey Epstein's cell and killed him. Mm-hmm. And there's minutes of video missing. Metadata's been fucked with 4 times in the video. Great report from Wired. Everybody should go read it. And the Jeffrey Epstein cell video that's missing a minute, it's actually missing several. And it's not even his cell. Who does Ghislaine Maxwell go to? If you're Ghislaine Maxwell, first of all, you should just off yourself. But who does she go to? Who does she go to protect herself from the regime which she believes killed her boyfriend or best friend and business partner? Who does she go to for protection?
Well, this is just the deep state. There is the rest of the state. I mean, this is a war going on between this transnational organized criminal enterprise that is trying to usurp democracy through legal means, and the rest of us who are trying desperately hard to keep democracy alive and freedom alive and the rule of law alive and all the things that we've come to love about living in this age that we live in. And this is a battle going on. So there are people of great ethics and great virtues that are fighting the fight as well against this deep state. And I'm sure she knows who they are. And I'm sure that there are people in different intelligence agencies that are also aware of this. I mean, the reality of it is we probably are on a course that we can't turn back. We probably are going to go down, this horrible path that they've set us on, which could lead us to World War II, III. But if Ghislaine Maxwell does something really brave like that, she could turn all of history around. So, is she the kind of person who can do that? I don't know her. I've read a lot about her. I don't think she's as difficult as this is to say. I'm not saying excusing anything she's done, but I believe was following orders throughout all of this. I believe that this was their mission. This is what they had to do. She's an agent of a foreign intelligence agency. You get the orders, you do what you do, right? I mean, it's not like you get to pick what your orders are. And I think the same thing of Epstein, not to excuse anything he did. But I know when things came to the end there, Epstein was talking. Epstein was giving the names out. And I don't know if Ghislaine is of the same character, of the same kind of person, but maybe she is. I suspect that the reason, the reason that they what could happen here is ending this horrible 50-year chapter of American history, which has so tarnished America, which has turned us into a toxic mess. And it's all because of this Iran-Contra affair. And it sounds ridiculous that that's where it started off. How could this little, arms trading deal have resulted in so much pain? But this is exactly what's happened. When you do things off the book, when you do things without transparency, when you do things without oversight, you get to this point. So I really encourage everyone to go and read my story at narativ.org. And I encourage journalists to really look at the story. I mean, I painstakingly put together what is known based on just the facts. Because, of course, I suspect a lot more than I wrote there, but you can see through the dots what I mean. But I just want people to start looking at the story. And as a journalist, wherever you are, for whichever organization you are, ask yourself the questions about, what is the implications of this story? What are the implications of an Iran-Contra affair that's gone so out of whack that the money was stolen and that there's now this, out of control deep state that is taking over America? I want people to really to ask yourself the question of who does that hurt? Who does that help? What does it mean for the future of the world? What does it mean for all these countries that are involved in it? What does it mean for the millions of people that are going to be oppressed under a despotic and oppressive regimes around the world? Billions of people. What does it mean for the world? And there is so much that every single reporter should be asking themselves, every single citizen should be asking themselves about how important it is to get this information out there. Because I'm just one voice, I mean, I haven't got enough for footprints to really make enough of an impact, but at least people can sort of start asking those questions and think about them, and maybe something can come out of this, that we understand that the Epstein era, the Donald Trump era, was much more than about girls and much more about a major multinational, transnational organized crime syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot there, but I had to. Should we do the next story?
Sure, I'm happy to.
So we should finish this up. Actually, we should finish. So we've had these 4 stages of the cover up. We've had them. The House is now gone on vacation. We've got Ghislaine Maxwell coming for a secret meeting. You've got this third notion of, what was the third one? The president distracting everybody, and then you've got these 1,000 FBI officers that have been looking through all these documents, trying to find any references to Donald Trump in order to basically delete history. Basically, delete it. And then
not even references either, right?
Yeah.
Like they're looking for pictures, they're looking for videos. They literally are looking for anything where Donald Trump is mentioned: flight logs, black books, client lists, surveillance, compact discs, VHS tapes. Apparently, there's a bunch of VHS tapes. And none of them good. And Pam Bondi acknowledged that there were tens of thousands of videos of horrific crimes against children. They're looking to see if he's in any of those. And I think the shock for guys like Bongino, who is, he's an extremist and he's been kettled and paid by the right people to believe that, the deep state is democratic and it's everybody else other than Trump. And so he rode for the brand, took a job with Trump. And apparently, from what I understand, shocked by what is in these files, and is having a major crisis, a moment of personal and professional crisis. If a podcaster turned FBI deputy assistant, deputy director can have a professional conscience or professional moment, he's not a professional, he's a scab. He's just some dickhead that Donald Trump put in there. But this dickhead seems to be like, okay, well, listen, if I stop, and if I don't give people what they want, the last several years of my life are useless, right? But also, to go with that, none of these people are anything without Trump or these Epstein files. So if indeed they do come out, right, their jobs are done. No one gives a shit about them anymore.
Yep.
And if indeed Donald Trump is in those Epstein files, which we believe he is for sure, and what, if any of what we're saying is true, and the cover-up is pretty intense, so you can guarantee a lot of it is true.
Yeah.
Then you've got an entire industry, fake media industry, that collapses. And all of the people he surrounded himself with perpetrated that fake media industry, perpetrated those fake news organizations. Guys like Charlie Kirk. What the fuck is Charlie Kirk going to do if these Epstein files come out and Donald Trump's in them and it's over? What is Tim Pool going to do? What is fucking Laura Loomer going to do?
On Trump. They're going to turn on Trump.
No, but they didn't. Tim Pool and Charlie Kirk and every single one of those influencers that literally made millions over the past several years, suggesting the deep state is protecting Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump, who he campaigned on, will be the only person that's going to release these files. He's a hero. He's a hero. Yeah. Now they're like, I don't even see him. I'm just going to trust my government. Trump's not in it. Let's get on with the business of America and take over Greenland and invade Canada. I mean, they're nothing without him, and they know that. They will all go fucking broke if the Epstein files come out, and they're protecting people like Donald Trump.
But they're also paid by Russia, and that's, at the end of the day, Russia, I think, is over Donald Trump. I think that they're done with Donald Trump, and I think that's the tricky part here is. With Vance and his alliance and Donald and Russia and their entities, the media entities they control here, they are interested in offing Donald Trump. They will, and we'll be left with a even more difficult situation ahead, and that's where we are. I mean, we are just in a very difficult situation. There's nothing we can do about that. But the as much as I wanted Donald Trump not to be in power, it's equally as important for us to recognize what else is going on. It's really equally as important to recognize that, Russia is trying to get rid of him, and so is this other group of people that are also doing a very un-American thing in trying to take down the president of the United States from inside. The J.D. Vance and company. And I think
it's been happening for years.
Yeah. Never mind. Let's talk about something else. And here's something else. This is the number one story of the day. China has dumped $53 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds in the largest single-month sell-off since records began. This is while Donald Trump sits on a $2.9 billion in cryptocurrency holdings that represent 40% of his total net worth, according to the New York Times financial analysis. The timing isn't coincidental. Of course, China's bond dump is crashing the dollar across the world, just as Trump's crypto empire needs a weak dollar to maintain its inflated valuations, creating the perfect storm where America's president actually personally profits from economic policies that devastate the American people. This is the situation we're in, people. He's getting rich off crypto. The US dollar is about to crash, and American hegemony in the world is about to collapse.
Yeah. There's two different ways to look at this. It's a great piece. If you get a chance to read about the bond market, T-bills, how much debt America has because they're a pig economy. They just can't stop spending, and when they're out of money, they raise the debt ceiling and go borrow more and tell other countries to buy T-bills, and then you'll get this yield in the next 5 years. Those yields are not coming back. People are not buying bonds anymore. And
Lev's here. We should invite him in.
Who?
Let's invite Lev. Lev's on the, I think he's in the chat. Yeah, Lev, join us if you want. We've got 15 minutes here. Join us. I'm going to send you a thing if I know how to do that. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dean.
My guy, Lev.
Yeah.
So the bond sell-off is tricky, right? Because there's two schools of thought. Donald Trump wants to crash the market. Donald Trump wants to kill the dollar, and he wants to kill the dollar because he stands to make billions and billions and billions of dollars if they can replace the dollar with Bitcoin, with crypto, with digital currency. So this is either playing into his hands or he is fucking America over. And it's also got tendrils out to, the attempted coup that certain business people...
Here.
My man.
Lev Parnas. Joining us, the man himself.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt. I like coming in to try to sneak in and listen to what you guys are talking about because you guys have all the breaking stuff going on here. So
we were talking about you though, so I'm glad you checked in because we had so much to talk about you, and we're talking about how your deal and the whole pressure thing that was going on with. When you were arrested and all of that. So
we were talking about it. It was funny because as soon as we got news and go to Lev's Substack, he was the first guy to post the story about Ghislaine Maxwell's secret meeting. He's had one of those, right? Like Lev, you were the first Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, not only that, but a lot of people don't know that the Todd Blanche, who is the assistant attorney general of the United States, and who was Donald Trump's private lawyer, prior to that was part of my legal team. I threw him off, and then he ended up continuing to stay on as my co-defendant, Igor's lawyer.
Who assigned him to you, by the way?
Todd Blanche?
Yeah, did you? Trump did. Yeah,
he was Manafort's lawyer prior to that. So originally, it was we all had it in the family. It was part of the cabal. We passed on, it's like we passed on. So what happened was when we got arrested, we originally was in Washington, in Virginia. Mm-hmm. So first Trump had to sign off and had to have Jay Sekulow sign off a letter having John Dowd, who was his personal attorney, to conflict of interest to represent us. They also gave us Kevin Downing, who was one of Manafort's lawyers at the time. But then when our case came out of New York, we had to get New York lawyers. So in New York, Blanche was ex-Southern District of New York. He was one of the head line prosecutors in Southern District of New York, and then he was working for a big firm. At that time, he was just literally got Manafort off the double jeopardy case, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
So Blanche was the one that defended him on that. And Blanche was supposed to be my lead lawyer, but I broke off with them, told them to go screw themselves and fired them, and got Joe Bondi instead. And Blanche stayed on as Igor's lawyer. So it's interesting. He went from being somebody that was part of my team and telling me to be quiet, don't worry, you'll get out of this, all you guys gotta do is just shut up and listen to me, let me do the rest, to when I start speaking out, when I went on Rachel Maddow, he actually became our number one adversary. Todd Blanche, a lot of people don't know, went to court fighting me and my lawyers every day, from fighting us in the newspaper, trying to contradict any of the truth that I was speaking, truth to power at the time, in the newspapers, because he was representing my co-defendant, trying to give the other side, saying, oh, even Lev's co-defendant doesn't agree with him at the time, when they were trying to muddy the waters. And to the actual fact that when I made a deal, not deal, but when I agreed to testify and hand over all the evidence to the first impeachment, Todd Blanche went to court, to Southern District, and tried to have the documents sealed. And not allow them to be transferred over. We went to court, and my lawyer beat him literally 2 days prior to the impeachment, the articles being handed over, and that's why we did. So I know Todd Blanche very well.
So what's going to happen when Ghislaine Maxwell sits across the desk from him and it's a private meeting? They're going to be pretty heavy with her. I mean, presumably they're not going to say...
It's all set up already.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's a distraction.
No. I'll tell you what's. It's all. If you take a look, you gotta read the tea leaves. You guys know me by now. I say always keep your eye on the ball, not what the media is trying to show you. So look what happened. There was already certain messages that transpired. Rupert Murdoch. See, a lot of people out there, and with all due respect, I know a lot on the same side, but everybody has an opinion, and they're giving these opinions about this Wall Street letter. It's not important, or this and that. Everything is important because it's part of what transpired. So I'm going to give you guys an exclusive 5-minute quickie, because then I got to run. I have another interview doing at 4:00, but exclusive on the Live at 5 here with my brother Zev and Dean. So let's go over the timeline. What happens? Wall Street Journal releases that letter. That letter, meanwhile, while everybody thought, oh, it's salacious, look at the, what he wrote in there, look at what he doodled in there, well, look what, that was all distraction. What the letter was a message from Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal and Ghislaine Maxwell, that stuff is coming out, and I have a lot of stuff that's about to come out. What happens next that's not been reported very heavily on? Who meets with Rupert Murdoch right away?
We did JD Vance. We did this.
Thank you, Zev.
Big meeting.
On the ball. JD Vance meets with with Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch tells him, listen, Trump can do all his lawsuits. We got the goods.
Yeah.
Maxwell's the one that's giving it to us. I don't know for a fact, but if I had to bet 99, this is what I would be betting on right now. And folks, you know my record when it comes to that. And basically, what we see today was a response. Right after that, J.D. Vance came and told Trump, listen, they're not going to back down. They might release more stuff. Even Maxwell's lawyer sent in a coded message saying that Trump is backing out some sort of on the deal that he made. And all of a sudden today you have, because you got to understand, if this was done in a proper, normal way in a normal world, you would have probably ASU line prosecutors going to visit them. But what they did is, it was all strategic. What they did is they fired Marie Comey.
Yeah,
a lot of people think, oh, big deal. Yeah, she gets Comey the name, but no. Here's a very interesting fact. If they did not fire her because she was the one that prosecuted Maxwell and also prosecuted Epstein, right now she would have had to have been included in these conversations that Blanche and them having, and probably would be with him in the questioning.
Yeah, she'd be in the courts today in front of the judge, right?
Correct.
That's what she'd be.
Thank you, Zev. But no longer Marie Claire. So she's gone. Look at how the missing. You see, when these things were happening, people were like, couldn't understand. But we're connecting the dots for you, how in the past 3 days, all of this led up to today. And what today is happening is very dangerous, because what I'm hearing from the messages going back and forth, and because you guys have to remember, and Zev broke it down better than anybody when we had that special on my Substack, that Epstein was involved in a lot of things and a lot of different people. And one of the primary things was he was tasked to actually go after Democrats, because the Democrats were against certain policies and against Israel. So if she comes out tomorrow and just tells some of the story. Doesn't tell all of the story, but gives enough raw meat and raw base to his base and say, hey, this is who we got on the demo. And all of a sudden says, Trump, I never even seen Trump who. All of a sudden, there's maybe a commutation. I don't think a pardon, but I think a commutation that goes down the line and makes her. I think Trump makes her a hero by uncovering the deep state and parading her in front of Mega that she's going to try to take down certain Democrats and certain. So that's what I'm scared of. I'm scared with right now, and I'm trying to get more information, but that they're going to try to flip it because, look, most of his base is already messed up, destroyed. You're not going to get the butterflies back into the bottle. Most of them already see through his bullshit. That cult broke. That major cult mentality broke. Once they start seeing his lies, once they start seeing his manipulation, they know now it's they understand that not everything is going to be trusted.
Yeah.
But there's still a big contingency, especially the past several days, they've been trying to already switch and try to give him the benefit of the doubt, switch the narrative. They maybe look at the letter. They're using the letter that says, Trump would never do something like that. It's, again, the deep state. And then today, he comes out and, basically because remember, it's all theatrics.
Yeah.
It's all coordinated. Today, he comes out and what does he says? Stop with the Epstein stuff, even though let them deal with it. I know nothing about it. That's what
Yeah, you see that? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, everybody.
That's what that's like the main thing. Just like a perfect example about like Katie Johnson, that poor girl. I mean, trust me when I tell you, if that story had even a little bit of falsely funded, she would be being sued right now and ripped apart. Donald Trump has no problem suing anybody.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he's not suing some of these people that are going on the record, making live interviews on some of, some really, really serious stuff. A lot much serious than the Wall Street Journal with a letter that's being sued for $10 billion. So those are the things that, you could tell right by, like, when you play cards with somebody.
Yeah, those are the tells. Those are the tells.
Do you think Vance is on Trump's side with Murdoch, or do you think Vance is out to get Trump? I think Vance is out to get Trump.
I think Vance plays both sides. I think I think right now it's a cesspool. Right now, I think it's and it was always a cesspool because Vance was never MAGA. Vance was implanted there by the oligarchy. But now, because you have the split between Elon and Trump and Vance, ever since, if you just from what my sources tell me, and if you take a look, ever since the split between Eli and Trump, Vance has been almost irrelevant. You've hardly heard him even.
Not a word. He hasn't said anything about the Epstein shit either. Nothing.
He doesn't tweet. He doesn't. I mean, literally, you don't see him doing press conferences. Vance is because he's trying to stay on the sideline because he's a plan. Just like Vance reminds me of, it's like the Koch brothers. The powerful Republican. So they did the same thing to Trump in the first administration. They implemented secretary, but it wasn't a vice president. They implemented the Secretary of State, who was Pompeo. Pompeo was their guy that basically they inbred and were gonna. They wanted to lead up to maybe be the next president, take over, just never worked out.
I love how you just said Mike Pompeo was inbred. I like that. I don't disagree. Dean's he's got to go. Lev's got to go.
Lev's got to go. Okay.
I got to go. I love you guys.
Buddy, we love you.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
We should do this again. I'll see you Monday or earlier. Zev, give me a call. We should do a special coming up also. I love you guys. Everybody out there, follow Dean, follow Zev. Great reporting. And I got something later tonight coming on live. So keep your alerts out.
All right, go follow Lev. Go follow Lev. I'm going to watch you
tonight.
tonight after I get back from the Jays game. Good to see you, pal. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. There you go. Lev Parnas, everybody. That's the beauty of Substack, right? Yeah. There's Lev Parnas, like a fucking world-winning whistleblower, like just an American hero, warrior, a guy who's pushing back. Great. He's like, hey,
great.
Yeah, he's got to pop on for like 7 minutes and talk to you guys.
I love
everything
this thing. I love Substack for that. I love this community feel that everyone can just pop on at any time. It's like the kind of stuff that you want to create in TV, but you can't because not everyone has the capacity to do it. But because everyone's got a phone, everyone can jump on, and Lev can just jump on and share his experiences there. Boy, he had some good things to say there. His analysis is
Do you know why I love talking to him?
Yeah.
Not only is his analysis incredible, not only
Yeah.
is his information and insight second to none because he has plants and people in the right places and he can read the tea leaves and he was in the rooms and he was Donald Trump.
He knows
But he agrees with everything we say.
I didn't even know that, but yes, he does. Which is good.
He really does. Usually, last time he's like, "You're my, you guys are my favorite." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, you guys know exactly what's going on." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's incredible." I said, "I made most of it up."
Yeah, you did not make all of it.
How lucky! No, of course not.
No. You know what you're talking about. So that's great. Everyone should check out what Lev Parnas says later on today. We're at the end of the show. We were talking about China and all these other things. But,
hey, listen, let me wrap that up.
time.
China sold a bunch of bonds, probably to help Trump, not to hurt Trump. But they don't give a shit if they hurt you. And it is it's a one-shot arrow when you start dumping those bonds. So anyway, we'll talk about it tomorrow, maybe a little bit more. But
US dollar is tanking. There you go. That's just happening.
Donald Trump's a fuck. He's in charge of it all, and it's all a game. So,
but we are watching a potential coup happening as we speak. That we could see Donald Trump survive or not survive, and it all depends on how Ghislaine Maxwell ultimately performs, what she says in front of Todd Blanchard and what she has planned. It'll be interesting to see on which side she comes out on. That is the FiveStack today. Everyone should check out deanbundell.substack.com for his brilliant reporting and analysis. A lot of the stuff you heard about today comes from that Substack. It's a must follow and a must subscribe at 50% off for the rest of this month. And at narrative.org, you can check out my first part of this really long investigation. A little hard to get through, but it's really interesting stuff, all about Iran-Contra and then the sort of the origin story of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, not the one that they were trying to tell on the New York Times but failed, but the actual origin story. What really happened at the Olympic Tower where Adnan Khashoggi lived and at the Palace Hotel where Robert Maxwell lived, and all the comings and goings at that very crucial time of 1981 when Iran-Contra was starting and the shadow network that Ronald Reagan created began its work and hasn't stopped its work 40 years later. That is the FiveStack today, and we shall see you again tomorrow. See you then. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and have a great afternoon, Dean.
Bye now.